A corpse lay on the rain-soaked earth, surrounded by broken tiles and a weathered wooden fish. No tears, no offerings, no funeral hall. Only an old man with a bright smile stood nearby, tapping on a cracked clay bowl, singing an eerie melody. His smile wasn't the madness of overwhelming grief, but rather the serene understanding of one who had transcended life and death. This man was Zhuangzi. And the unmourned body was his wife of decades. "Master, have you lost your mind?" a young disciple asked, his voice trembling with horror. "This is your wife." Zhuangzi paused his tapping, gazing beyond the green mountains. His eyes held no tears, only the clarity of distant stars. "I was initially sad, but when I traced all things to their source, what did I discover? Before life, there was no form, before form, no breath. She has merely returned to her original state, sleeping peacefully amid the great transformation. She has simply gone ahead of me, why shouldn't I rejoice for her?" In the distance, butterflies danced in the post-rain sunlight. During the Warring States period, while lords fought for power and people chased fame and fortune, a man named Zhuangzi lived differently in Song State. Dressed in coarse clothes with grass rope for shoelaces, he found contentment in poverty. One day, Zhuangzi stood fishing by the Pu River, his gaze both focused and transcendent. "Sir, the King of Chu has sent us to invite you to become his prime minister," two elegantly dressed envoys announced respectfully. Zhuangzi didn't even look up, his fishing rod perfectly still. "I've heard that Chu has a sacred turtle, dead for 3,000 years, whose bones are preserved in the ancestral temple for divination," Zhuangzi said slowly. "Tell me, would this turtle prefer to be dead and venerated, or alive and dragging its tail through the mud?" The envoys exchanged glances. "Alive, of course." "Then I shall return your invitation." "I too prefer dragging my tail through the mud," Zhuangzi replied with a smile. After the envoys departed, a disciple couldn't help asking, "Master, why refuse such a high position? So many dream of such an opportunity." Zhuangzi didn't answer immediately, instead pointing to their reflections in the water. "The world hustles and bustles for profit alone. But man's true shackles are never external poverty, but internal attachment." Days later, walking down a road, Zhuangzi encountered a wealthy merchant named Chao Sheng proudly showing off 100 carriages he had brought back from Qin. "My talent lies in pleasing the nobility, earning me this wealth," Chao Sheng boasted. Zhuangzi smiled faintly. "I heard that when the king of Qin had sores, anyone who lanced one received a carriage, anyone who licked his hemorrhoids received 5 carriages. It seems you treated his hemorrhoids, didn't you?" Chao Sheng flushed red, speechless. As autumn winds scattered fallen leaves, Zhuangzi sat quietly beneath a tree. A butterfly fluttered before him, sometimes near, sometimes far. "Master, you often say you don't know whether you're Zhuangzi dreaming of being a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming of being Zhuangzi. What does this mean?" a puzzled disciple asked. Zhuangzi extended his finger, letting the butterfly alight upon it. "Life and death, fame and profit, are merely transformations of state. Like water can be liquid, ice, or vapor, its essence unchanged, only its form different. But everyone fears death, even the wisest," the disciple argued. "What's frightening about death?" Zhuangzi laughed. "After I die, don't build me an elaborate tomb. Place me in the wilderness for hawks and crows to feast on my flesh. If you bury me, you'll only feed ants and earthworms. Why steal food from the birds of the sky?" The disciples were shocked by their master's transcendent attitude toward life and death. Years later, as Zhuangzi lay dying, he saw that butterfly once more and closed his eyes with a smile. His disciples honored his wishes, placing him in the wilderness. Strangely, when they looked back, Zhuangzi's body was covered with colorful butterflies, like a flowing robe of living art. The butterflies seemed to perform a mysterious ritual before flying skyward, disappearing into the clouds. When the disciples returned to that wilderness later, Zhuangzi's body had vanished. Only an exceptionally beautiful butterfly remained, its wings bearing patterns like distant stars. It gazed at them silently before flying away, like a traveler with no thought of return. Thousands of years later, Zhuangzi's philosophy still radiates wisdom. He taught us, true freedom isn't about possessions but about releasing attachments. Life and death are mere transformations, with fear arising only from attachment to the unknown. The highest state is free wandering between heaven and earth, breaking through inner barriers to achieve cosmic perspective. That butterfly perhaps still flutters somewhere, dreaming of Zhuangzi, just as Zhuangzi once dreamed he was a butterfly. Between life and death, beyond fame and profit, everything is simply the natural manifestation of the Great Way. In today's increasingly restless society, Zhuangzi's wisdom refreshes our parched souls, reminding us, release attachments to see a vaster universe, transcend life and death to achieve true freedom.